I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all of you to our June meeting. And we have a quorum. An introduction of visitors.
Well, good evening, everyone, and happy summer. Pat Fedor is here tonight, representing our Administrators Association. Martha Shoemaker, our Federation of Scientific Teachers. Norm Glidden is here tonight from the Board of Finance. Brian Lynch from the RTM. I saw Valerie Muckle from the RTM. And I think those are our other town representatives here this evening. And Dr. Kate Griffin is here this evening, and she'll be starting here on July 1st. So welcome.
And now, is there any public comment? Would anybody like to speak? I know who you are, but you have to identify yourself and say where you live. I'm sorry.
No problem. Good evening. My name is Brian Lynch. I reside at 22 Queensville Avenue in Waterford. I am a retired Waterford Student Counselor and a current member of the Waterford RTM. Please record my remarks in the meeting tonight. Throughout my years in Waterford, I have always enjoyed an excellent relationship with all Waterford community members. I have been a proud supporter of many town-wide initiatives and have been involved with people of all stages across all departments. During my actively employed years, simple requests for clarification or information to the Human Resources Office were processed quickly and with the utmost professionalism. During my second year of retirement, however, this has not been the case, and this is my reason for my comment this evening. Prior to retirement, I met with the current Director of Human Resources. This was in May of 2015. I discussed many options regarding my health benefits. Ms. Sarchak was friendly, helpful, and very willing to share information. During our discussion about selecting a health care plan, I asked whether or not I would be eligible to change my life from my life plan back to the strategic plan procedure. Mrs. Sarchak confirmed that that would be an option for me. In fact, she suggested that she compose a letter documenting our discussion, and I accepted the offer. In November of 2014, after some prompting, I finally received a letter. It was incorrect. I wondered why it did not describe our discussion accurately. I asked Ms. Sarchak several times about updating the letter. Each time Ms. Sarchak said she would fix the harsh wording and correct the letter. Since November, I have again promptly responded. As 2 weeks ago, my wife called Mrs. Sarchak on my behalf and again asked about receiving the letter. Ms. Sarchak replied, "I have a very busy day today and I won't be able to do it." When asked if next week would be an option, my wife was told, "I'm not sure when I'll get to it. I have a very, very, very busy schedule." Is this a respectful response to the letter documented that was offered to me back in 2013? Outright view this as unacceptable, and the negative change in Ms. Sarchak's demeanor seems to coincide with the sudden and drastic changes being made to our health benefits. I am here to ask you tonight, is this a matter of harassment, or is it a matter of incompetence? Is the Director of Human Resources unfairly and unnecessarily targeting me, and if so, why? Does anyone on the board care to investigate the concern? Is anyone on the board interested in pursuing what is really going on? I have submitted a letter of concern to Ms. Sarchak and asked in writing this time for another corrected third letter of the initial 2013 letter. Mr. Sarchak has received a copy of this document for your review. I have provided valuable years of solid service to you and your children, and do not understand why, after the completion of my career here in Waterford, and after 1 year of retirement, I am subjected to this unnecessary treatment. Since the sudden changes were implemented 1 year ago by the superintendent and the Director of Human Resources, our retirement life has been uprooted. our questions continue to go unanswered. It is unfortunate that I'm here tonight to make these remarks. I have attempted to engage in respectful dialogue with the superintendent, director of human resources, and the first elected. Public comment at the start of the Board of Education meeting seemed to be the only forum available to state a concern that will not be addressed elsewhere. 30-plus years, excellent relationship with the Office of the Superintendent and the Office of Human Resources. 1 year of retirement, no concern to express to the central office staff. Casual and friendly interactions continue. 2nd year of retirement, many questions suddenly escalate to high concern when refilling a standard prescription. Difficulties begin with obtaining the information and communication from the director of HR and the superintendent. Again, I ask, is my concern one of harassment or competence? Will the Board of Education step up to the plate and help me understand why changes were suddenly made last July and why the director of HR won't follow through on her offer to compose a letter for me documenting our discussions prior to my retirement. This past year has been difficult and stressful to me and my family because of this needless situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Hi, I'm Sarah Baker. I live in Illinois, and I am a retired Waterford textbook teacher. Please enter my comments into the record of tonight's meeting as well. Good evening, members of the board and Madam Chairperson. I regret that it is a terrible shame that I am here again to address the board. When I came to you in April, it was out of respect and with the hope that you would engage me and my fellow retirees in an open, fair, and democratic dialogue to address this obvious problem. Instead, the board chose to go behind closed doors and to avoid us with the stated reason of, quote, potentially pending litigation. I guess the translation to that is that you were concerned that you might, maybe, possibly be sued, even though there was never a threat of that in April from me or anyone else who spoke to you that evening. It is a terrible shame that I am here again to let you know that I have retained an attorney since he left me no choice. Even though I am his paying client currently, he understands the issues for all of us. The board has been sent correspondence from him, and here's a summary of the text of that letter. I'm not going to read this whole letter. It's very detailed. I'm going to summarize portions of it and read portions of it. It's addressed to Madam Chairperson, Jody Garchak, and the first long paragraph actually recreates the history of the legislation that put in place the subsidy, the health subsidy for retired teachers. It goes back to 1970, and also quite nicely details the intent of that legislation and the funding for it, which in large part comes from the active teachers' retirement contribution. He goes on in the next paragraph to state that Connecticut General Statute 10-183 subsection C states in relevant parts, on or after July 1st, 2000, the board shall pay a subsidy equal to the subsidy paid in the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2000 to the Board of Education on behalf of any member who is receiving benefits. Furthermore, Connecticut General Statute 10-183T 2015, and this was added on December 1st, 2006. Teachers' Retirement Board issued a memorandum to superintendents and business managers addressing how the subsidy was to be applied. And he included that as Exhibit 1. Specifically, the memorandum states, TRB issues a subsidy payment to the school district for the benefit of the member. The memorandum further states, in addition, the entire subsidy must be applied to the member's premium costs as opposed to the school district's costs. Finally, the Teachers' Retirement Board website contains a publication of insurance frequently asked questions for subsidized local school district coverage. Of particular note are the following questions and answers provided by the Teachers' Retirement Board. Question: if I remain with my former employer for my health insurance, will the retirement system pay a subsidy payment to my former employer? Answer: yes. CCRB will issue a subsidy payment on your behalf to your former employer to offset the cost of your insurance coverage with them. Question: my former employer paid for part of my health insurance costs and I pay the remaining portion. How will the subsidy payment work in this situation? The subsidy must first be used toward the cost of your health insurance coverage. If any balance remains from the subsidy payment, it may be used by the Board of Education to offset their costs. Now, I also would like to note that that website was last updated April 2015. In keeping on here, based on the sources contained in this letter, it is abundantly clear that the purpose of the subsidy provided by the teacher retirement system is to offset the cost of a retiree's health insurance and is not to be used to reduce the cost of the school district's contribution. Notwithstanding, since Mrs. Baker's retirement on June 30th, 2013, the Waterford School District has applied the subsidy received from the Teachers Retirement Board on her behalf to reduce its contribution. Specifically, the school district applies the subsidy to the total premium, which has the effect of reducing school district's contribution while at the same time inflating the Baker's contribution. This matter can be resolved in the following way. Number one, provide my office with a copy of the group insurance monthly premium worksheet pertaining to Mrs. Baker from July 2013 to the present. Number two, reimburse Mrs. Baker for all subsidies improperly applied in a manner as to reduce the school district's contribution and inflate hers. Three, effective July 1st, 2015, the district shall apply the entire subsidy received from the Teachers Retirement Board to reduce Mrs. Baker's percentage cost of the total premium. He closes by saying, kindly contact me or have your attorney contact me to do so within 5 business days to discuss resolving this matter. And it is signed John M. Walsh, Jr. from Macari, Walsh & Flavor, LLC.
Thank you, Jen. Is there any more public comment?
My name is Lynn Lynch. I'm a retired Waterford teacher and administrator, a current member of the Waterford Ethics Commission, and I reside at 22 Central Avenue in Waterford. Please record my remarks into the minutes of tonight's meeting. In April, I submitted a letter to the board outlining my concerns regarding the sudden, unplanned, and detrimental change in my medical benefits. At the May special meeting, the board did not make a statement regarding my letter. A statement was actually made, strangely enough, during the May regular meeting and after public comment segment concluded. Therefore, I am here tonight to address the board and respond to your prepared statement. For the past year, I've been confronted with blockades and disrespect from the Office of Superintendent, the Office of Human Resources, and this board in my attempt to understand the sudden, dramatic, and unilaterally altered changes to my medical insurance. The prepared Board of Ed response regarding my concern does not address the many questions I posed to you. Your response noted a review process occurred, and I would like clarification as to what that entails. There has been no effort to communicate with me, so how could a thorough review have been conducted? The statement includes a short summary of only part of the concerns submitted. I'd also like to note that your statement omits important information. The retirement plan I referred to in my letter was in place during my last year of employment, as you correctly indicated, but what you omitted was that it was also in place for 1 full year of retirement for me, and for 3 full years of retirement for another retiree. Why was this fact omitted from your public statement? It's interesting, though, while this board was securing an outrageous retirement compensation package for the superintendent was simultaneously implementing a sudden new interpretation of an expired contract for retired administrators that would be extremely detrimental to some retirees. Can anyone explain this thinking to me? You provide for the superintendent to take away from already retired administrators. Attorney General Jepson recently issued an opinion that should raise questions for this board. I read the responses in the day paper to the Attorney General's opinion regarding compensation packages for reemployed retired superintendents. Mr. Blair was quoted as saying, "We really need to wait to get an interpretation of what this opinion really means." Mr. Blair, you'd like different interpretations considered for your retirement deal, yet you assigned the sole interpretation to my contract that is far from accurate. TRD Administrator Darlene Perez was quoted as saying, "The TRD will apply the interpretation going forward." That statement too is interesting because the superintendent and this board applies a new interpretation to the administrator's contract going backwards to expired contracts. Why wouldn't this new interpretation for retired administrators be applied going forward? Ms. McCarty said, Katie quote, "Still believes that the law was unclear in its wording and that the attorneys from the board's law firm had advised that the contract was in line with state statute. That she wouldn't want the community to think the board is trying to do anything it shouldn't." Ms. McCarty, the board willingly agreed to sudden and shocking changes in my medical insurance. Changes which forced me to incur legal expenses in order to understand the ramifications of decisions made by the superintendent and the director of HR and supported by this board. The board asked no questions of me. There was no attempt to get an interpretation other than the one given by the superintendent. Who do I seek for clarification in wording? Are there town legal resources available to me? And finally, Ms. McCarty, I certainly believe the board is trying to do what it should. Ethical ramifications, as well as legal ones, should always be considered. This board upheld the sudden and drastic changes and didn't even dignify my letter of concern with a personal outreach. Why not? Can you imagine if your school administrator practiced your behavior and treated the students and families of Waterford with such disregard? You've modeled for all educators in Waterford the type of behavior that you believe is acceptable. Behavior with negative implications for the culture and climate of education in Waterford. Your actions go against everything we strive for in our schools. You chose to unfairly and drastically change health benefits for retirees for no apparent reason. Your lack of reasoning leads one to believe that you acted simply because you have the power to do so, and justification is not necessary. Our schools teach stating a purpose, conducting research, defending an argument with solid facts, justifying a course of action. You chose closed-mindedness by not attempting to reach out to long-term, loyal educators and have ignored the pursuit of answers to serious questions. Schools teach empathy, kindness, understanding, and respect for all. You've encouraged disrespectful behavior and promoted unrest for loyal employees. Schools teach the importance and value of building positive, healthy relationships. You've chosen to be bystanders, which models to the community your ignorance for fairness and trustworthiness. Schools teach becoming upstanders and doing what's right simply because it's what's the right thing to do. You've chosen to first and foremost seek legal advice and to incur legal fees for this town. Schools teach peaceful resolution and free collaborative effort. We teach implementing conflict resolution from the beginning. You've hidden behind an attorney-client privilege memorandum rather than complete a thorough investigation in order to seek the truth. Schools teach consideration of ethical as well as legal implications and practice efforts to reduce the risk of unethical or unlawful behavior that might result in legal complications for the town. You've allowed weeks to lapse in silence since receiving my letter. Our schools strive for 24-hour responses to students, parents, and community members. Why would any Board of Education demonstrate such choices? I am here tonight to again ask 3 questions. Why is the superintendent and the Board of Education penalizing me with a sudden and dramatic change in medical coverage 1 year after retirement? And why didn't your prepared statement last month respond to this question and the others I asked? How much money has the town spent on legal fees associated with this medical benefits change that was suddenly presented 1 to 3 years after retirement benefits were in effect? Doesn't anyone wonder why this change? Why incur needless legal fees? Why does the Director of Human Resources fail to respectfully carry out her duty with regard to simple requests that my husband and I have made during the past year? And in possession of 6 different handsome cards, I don't know which one is correct. This board did not honor a fair and dignified resolution to my concerns. The response and lack thereof of this board to questions I posed in a letter submitted 8 weeks ago is disgraceful. What would happen to education in this town if I or any other administrator treated students and parents in a similar manner? Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment?
And not
That's good.
to the members of the Waterford Board of Education. I am Martha Shoemaker. I reside at 30 Richwood Road in Lyme. I am a teacher of 32 years in Waterford, and I serve as the president of the Waterford Federation of Classroom Teachers. I'd like to have my remarks included in the minutes of the meeting tonight. My comments are presented in the capacity as president of the Federation and relate to civility, and I will refer to the policy adopted by the Waterford Board of Education on January 24th, 2013, Policy 0600A. It is entitled Civility, Respectful Communication, and Action. This policy states that, quote, the intent of this policy is to maintain a civil, respectful workplace for teachers, students, administrators, staff, parents, and other members of the community, end quote. This policy also notes that, and I quote, in the interest of presenting all adults as positive role models for students, the Waterford Board of Education encourages positive communication, end quote. Furthermore, it states, and I quote, the board expects staff, students, parents, and members of the public while at school, on school property, or at a school function to communicate and act in a manner that exemplifies respect for the dignity and worth of all individuals, regardless of race, religion, color, nation, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, marital status, age, disability, pregnancy, gender identity, or expression, socioeconomic status, or role within the school community. All adults participating in the school community are expected to communicate and act in a manner consistent with providing positive role models for students, end quote. There are 3 specific reasons for my remarks this evening. 1, the lack of attendance by Board of Education members at a retirement party for the 13 retiring members of the WFCT on June 4th. 2, the disrespectful remarks directed toward teachers at the March 19th Board of Education meeting held at Park Lane Middle School. And 3, the missing representation of administrators, teachers, central office staff, parents, and community members from the superintendent search interview committee. My first comment. For over 10 years, the Waterford Federation of Classroom Teachers has planned and hosted an event to celebrate the years of service by loyal and dedicated educators. 3 years ago, we added a new trend, an extended invitation to include all Waterford Board of Education retirees. Over the past 3 years, we have celebrated the retirement of secretaries, administrators, and teachers. Each year, we have provided the scheduled date and time to the superintendent of schools months in advance of the event so that the Board of Education members could plan to attend this wonderful celebration of education. The first 2 years in attendance were Mrs. McCarty, Mrs. Nazarczyk, and Mrs. Bogdan. This year, only Mrs. Nazarczyk attended. Members of the WFCT feel that the Board of Education's non-attendance demonstrates a disrespect to the retired teachers who this year provided 325 years of service to the Waterford Public Schools. In fact, not only did the Board of Education members not attend, they did not even have the dignity or courtesy to respond to the invitation. This board should support the policy for the respect for the dignity and worth of those retiring individuals. Comment 2. On March 19, 2015, members of the Board of Education made disparaging remarks directed at teachers, parents, and citizens who attended the meeting at Park Lane. Citizens spoke of your lack of transparency, and teachers stood up to the following State Statute 10-183. It is the belief of the Waterford Federation of Classroom Teachers that comments by Board of Education members were not communicated in a manner that provided a positive role model for the students in Waterford. Last week, the Attorney General published an opinion on the statute in question, and the interpretation is identical to the one stated by the Federation earlier this year. The Federation acted in good faith with the best interests of the Waterford Public Schools in mind when statements and concerns were presented to you. If the Federation had been proven wrong after the issuance of the opinion from the Attorney General, we would surely have made a public statement apologizing for our misrepresentation of the law. Should the Federation of Classroom Teachers expect the same from this board? Comment 3. Due to the lack of communication from the Board of Education, should we assume that the WFCT will have no part in the selection of the new superintendent? During this past year, citizens of this town have addressed you, the Board of Education, with requests and reminders to include all parties in this very important selection process. An all-inclusive selection committee builds trust between the parties and sets a foundation for a cohesive team to begin in the new school year. By strategically omitting interested parties who have a valuable input, you are laying the foundation for a year built upon little transparency and a large amount of mistrust between all parties. The entire school community are the stakeholders of the educational system in Waterford, and why are they not involved in this most important process? As the president of the WFCT, I can attest to the fact that Waterford teachers are the best of the best. We participate on committees to design and implement important board policies and understand the underlying need for such groundwork. We work diligently to model respectful, responsible behavior in all that we do because it is our responsibility to uphold all the policies of the Waterford Public Schools. We recognize the importance of being positive role models for our youth and strive for excellence in conducting ourselves accordingly. In summary, I'd like to ask, how do the actions by you, the educational leaders in Waterford, support the mission of the Waterford Public Schools? Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Is there any more public comment?
Untitled Chapter, 37 Yorkshire Drive. I request this be made as part of the record and included in the minutes of the meeting. And I'm restating what has just been said by others before me. This board, on the whole, is not representing the community. It does not seek input from the public and has made themselves unreachable for the most part. A prime example is excluding anyone else from the first committee forum as superintendent, a practice that, as far as I know, has not been done before.
Thank you, Helen. Is there any more public comment? Recognition?
So I'd like to take a few minutes to recognize Joan Mullins, who teaches over at Waterford High School. She's an English teacher, and unfortunately she couldn't be here this evening, but I met with her just before school ended. And as you visit Waterford High School and you take a look at the grounds, there's a green thumb behind what you see out there. And Joan has worked with students over the last number of years at the old high school, as well as at the new building, with a number of plantings. And so as you can see here in the highlights, these are through her efforts, volunteering, working with students. And it hit me one night a year ago in June. I'm leaving here late at night, and Joan's out weeding by the traffic light. And I didn't recognize her right away. She had glasses on, she had a hat on, it was really incognito. And so I pulled over to see who it was, and if you know Joan, she has an accent, and she's just absolutely spectacular, and she says to me, "I'm leaving tomorrow, I have to get this done." And so what I've come to realize is that she takes such pride in the grounds over at the high school. And so when I met with her, I said to her, "Could you just give me an email just to kind of highlight a couple of things?" She wanted me to know those are the future projects that she has on her plate to work with students in the landscaping over at Waterford High School. So I just wanted to take the opportunity tonight, in her absence, and I told her that I would do this, and she was very appreciative, to recognize Joan Mullins and students that are part of her garden club in the great efforts that she's taking over at Waterford High School. So I told her we would applaud loud enough and she could hear it. So we have three different presentations before we get into the business of the evening, and our administrative team is all going to take a piece of this presentation. So that you recall, we've been engaged in an instructional rounds process for the past 4 years, and it's modeled after a medical model, and where a team of doctors would visit another physician with patients, taking a look at the area of focus, problem of practice related to the well-being of that patient. And it's something that began at Harvard. And we've been engaged in this process for the past 4 years, and tonight we're going to share the impact that it's having in each of our schools. You had some background information, you had a couple of articles to take a look at, and you'll know that it occurs through observation, the teachers visiting other teachers' classrooms. There's an improvement strategy that the school is working on to improve student achievement. And what it does is it fosters and it builds a community of practice, taking the minds of the staff at the school and putting them together in a collective effort to take a look at continuous improvement. It's really about holding a mirror up to the school at that point in time. And it's a formative process. It's not about how good are we or what are our issues that we have. It's really, at this point in time, here's where we are with this improvement effort. And then identifying our next level of work so that we continue to get better at our craft with that area of focus. Each building now has a team. They identify an area of focus to look at and work on as a collective body within their school. They observe one another, they come together, and they debrief, and they identify the next level of work. And this team of folks then reports back to the staff and shares their experience, and then puts together their minds on the next level of work. We've identified a number of benefits that would really foster the community of practice, focus the work in our school around improvement. It really informs our practice. Those that are engaged in the process learn so much that can benefit their own practice, and then sharing that with the staff, and it really pushes us to the next level. So Pat's going to take a minute or two and just kind of share the Great Neck experience and where they are at this point in time. And Pat, I can play Vanna White up here as you talk, okay?
The Great Neck, we've been going around for 3 or 4 years now, and we've moved from the very start of a district practice, and we had the benefit of having the superintendent's network come to Great Neck 4 or 5 days before Christmas. It's very special.
That was 4 years ago.
That was great. Every time we go, and I'll call the kids off dance on the ride. Well, what we've done at Great Neck is we moved from a district practice to internal round. And so I did itemize how we started with the superintendent. We did district rounds for 2 years. Then 2 years ago we moved to internal rounds. So we're using our own teachers in our own building where we have a level of trust. We know the kids, we know each other, and the freedom to go in and out of rooms and really have honest conversations. You can see our colleagues of practice have also evolved. And then our goal for next year would be to create grade level and a cross grade level, including all special area teachers in our internal round practice. So we've taken it from a more district global to a very specific in-house teacher program, and it's loved by all.
Chris, from Quaker Hill.
All right. So at Quaker Hill, this year really our focus was about teamwork. Our round teams developed a rubric to analyze what the level of teamwork that was going on with the students. So our area of inquiry, what we were looking at, is how do we promote teamwork and have students respectfully hold each other accountable when working in partners in small groups. We learned a lot. Teachers loved looking at each other's classrooms. There was a lot of professional feeling going on afterwards. Oh, I like that. They used it in their room, which is great. And so what we did is we really wanted to foster student leadership because we noticed that when there was student leaders, the group work was better. And we really wanted to set time aside for that to happen. So we matched up some of the older grades with the younger grades, and we had teamwork time every Friday, the last Friday of every month. And so there's a little video of the teamwork time that's on our website.
And that's on the website.
So the way we grouped kids was very important to student success. Really thoughtful selection of groups, mixing kids based on ability, also based on interest level. The duration of the activity was very important. Sometimes it went a little bit too long, and we start to lose the kids a little bit. And then they had obviously done this before. We really practiced across all the elementary school buildings accountable talk, and that really runs alongside with our Readers and Writers workshop. So again, we had a lot of great ideas about student leadership. We had written down a lot of quotes of what the kids were saying to each other. It was really impressive. Even 5 and 6-year-olds talking to each other on a really high level. It was really great to see. We also noticed kids are still kids. We'd see little arguments. And one group could be the highest level on one part of the rubric and the lowest on another. So we still have our work cut out for us. But really, overall, I think it was a really great success. And again, just the advantages overall of rounds. Teachers really love that professional feeling. Vertical alignment, they like seeing what the kids were doing before they came to them. I think that was really valuable to see, if you're a first grade teacher in kindergarten, you're really working on some high level stuff. You can really carry it on from there. And then really the feedback, as Pat said, with our own building was really valuable. Teachers talking to each other about, everything that was going on in the school. So next steps, we're on the right track. We're going to keep on going with the problem practice or area of inquiry. We really want to look at teamwork and kind of take it to the next level. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking at us, we got you.
Actually, Carrie's going to do this, one of our members of our internal area. I asked her if she would, and she said no. But our team did 3 visits throughout the year, one in November, one in March, and one in May. We had a team of 9 members that was made up representing all different grades, special education, unified art, and actually in our instructional coaches as well. So it was really a well-rounded team. Looking at our problem of practice that we were looking at is how does the learning path, really looking at the path instructional core, promote student discourse and lead students to demonstrate their learning at higher levels. So we really want to look at that as far as our problem of practice. And then what were some of the focus questions that we looked at throughout the year to really begin our work? Really looking at how students listen to questions and engage one another. How do students use their prior knowledge and new knowledge to make evidence for claims and arguments when addressing topics? How do students use different strategies and what type of follow-up responses? How does the teacher facilitate that discussion? And what type of support are provided to help students engage? So those are the things that we were looking at when we're going into the different classrooms. And one of the things, too, is that teachers on the team found very powerful, as Chris was saying, too, was being in other teachers' classrooms. So we wanted a big feeling. And teachers on that team really felt that they learned a lot from being in other teachers' classrooms. So that's where one of the things we have to do next year is really to expand that team and offer more members to the couple teams so that give more of our teachers that opportunity. So within that, we learned some different things and what are our next level of work. We're going to continue to model student discourse. We've really been working on that in both reading and mathematics and in unified arts and PE as well. So we've seen it in all of our different classrooms. So really creating guidelines around this discourse and its expectations for grade level. One of our grade levels created a really nice rubric to pay attention to students. Look closely at how meaningful is the discourse, and now we're getting more in depth. Our students are having those conversations. So what are they talking about? What are we looking for accountable thoughts? How can we get students to a higher level of discourse? And getting students to really discover learning on their own instead of being passive learners. And we really looked at that last piece of really how do we design tasks that promote that type of discourse and thinking. That we really talked, we had a lot of discussion around how we're grouping students, what materials we use, how do students interact with materials and with each other, and what are the expectations and final products that we're expecting of students.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Good. I'm going to move to kind of the mid-year because earlier you had done the... Yeah.
So our instruction around, that's really fast.
Well, no, I'm moving to the January time because you had given the board an update.
Our story is a little different and a little odd because just as our teachers were involved in this instruction around training, basically Mr. Moore and I were writing the school distinction grant and it was due on September 30th. So our teachers were being trained, we're writing the grant, And then we got little hints from the state that we may need to get a grant, so we put off our first instructional until January. Happened to call it just right because just at the beginning of January we were given a grant of $20,000, and it was really exciting. So what we did was we took that first slot that was already scheduled with subs and all of that, and we used that for the distinction grant first meeting. So at that meeting we planned out a timeline of action, which was to survey all our PLCs and ask them what the literacy focuses that gives the most yield in the classrooms would be. And so those groups, we surveyed them, they came up with some answers, and we got them all together pretty much for the rest of the year, and they worked on looking at the work that kids produced from those high yield strategies in literacy. At the same time, we found some excellent PD from De Beers and Post. They're nationally known literacy specialists, and so we used some of the distinction grant money for our August 24th PD. We used it for some video equipment, and we're using it to attend a conference in the fall. We don't know the date yet. So some of this was hard for us because they never really gave us a hard date. We did have a great visit public stage in May on Mr. Powers Square, in which they did observe 7 teachers, and we spoke with 10 students who were incredibly eloquent, really verbalizing what the middle school experiences and literacy was like in Waterford. We were really proud of them. And so that's where we're at. When we come back in the fall, we'll have this excellent PD. Our teachers will get some great publications, and we'll start showing them in classrooms. So, in a sense, it all came from the work in instructional round and kind of merged right into a sort of self-analysis that's going to be a product we'll bring to other schools in the fall. So,
Thank you, Jim.
Well,
In the high school.
All right. Now, at the high school this year, our faculty decided we really wanted to focus on the concept of meaningful work, making sure that the work we were asking students to do was meaningful to them and that they understood the purpose of it. And in the process, we realized we need to do that same thing for our teachers. And so a lot of what we did with instructional rounds, we called it internal rounds because it was just the high school, really was, every time we did it, we were asking them, how do we make this more meaningful for you? What are the things we could change to make this a more relevant process for you? So one big thing was we shifted to a focus for each set of rounds. There was a humanities focused one, a math and science, STEM, we threw technology and education in there with them, focused rounds, and an elective round. Now this was new for us. We never really involved the elective areas before, and it turns out there's a lot of great, purposeful, hands-on, interactive work for students that we found in those classes that really was eye-opening for the core area teachers. This allowed us to spread the observations out among more teachers. We were visiting more classrooms. Another big piece here, the teachers were saying, we get the importance of rounds for the people doing the observing, but historically we hadn't given feedback to the teachers being observed. And they wanted to know, if my peers are coming in and they're watching me and I value their opinions, I want them to tell me what they liked, what they didn't like. And we started with some very general feedback at the beginning of the year. Each time we did rounds, we became a little bit more specific in the feedback we gave. The last set of rounds, we actually had a conversation with them about what kind of feedback do you want? And it turns out what they really wanted was for the administrators to leave the room and really hear what did their peers think. So my prediction was this will be about a 10-minute conversation after we leave. A half an hour after the administrators left the room, they were still in there. And the people who were involved, both the observers and the observed, told me afterwards that was the most valuable part. So next year we're really going to work on building in a lot of rich feedback that we don't need to hear. This isn't evaluative. This is about teachers talking to teachers about their own crafts. Now, throughout the year, we got a large number of our faculty members involved in this. You can look at each of the numbers. The one that means the most to me is down here at the bottom. 61% of our faculty either went into a classroom or had people come into their classrooms, and a large number of them, the people who were trained in rounds, wanted, when we got to their department, to step off the team and be observed. They felt that that would be a valuable experience for them. So the majority of our faculty members this year participated in rounds. And those who didn't have that opportunity this year are asking me, how can I get involved next year? So, I talked about feedback already, how we move towards that idea of starting very general, getting more detailed.
what did we see? Strengths here. First of all, our kids like our teachers like our kids. This is a school with great positive teacher-student and student-student relationships. Our teachers are passionate, they're knowledgeable, they're designing tasks with this emphasis on relevance, real-world application, that meaningfulness, and that just about any class we run into, there was the potential for real rigor. This could be hard work. This could be really challenging. Of course, you're always looking for that next step. Our teachers knew what the purpose of their work was. But if you stopped and asked a kid in the middle of an activity, what are you doing? They could tell you. If you ask, why are you doing it? 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds aren't always clear on that. So as a faculty, we really think we want to do a better job of communicating to them what is the purpose of your work. Feedback, individualizing it, especially getting students to give students meaningful feedback about their work. We're getting good feedback coming from the teacher. How do we get their peers to give one another feedback? Like I said, our tasks all have the potential for rigor. How do we individualize them enough to really push the kids who could be pushed harder? And then release of control. We like working with our kids. We like our subject matter. How do we step back and let the kids struggle more before we step in that expert role? And these are areas that we're going to focus on in the next year. I've got to say the shift to internal rounds was extremely positive, very well received by our faculty.
Thank you, Andre.
I think what we wanted to do this evening with this presentation is just kind of share with you the evolution from when we first began, and we talked to you about the district-wide team, and now it's really individualized at each school, and it's really about the work that the school is focused on for that particular year. It really engages the staff. It opens up the classroom. Teachers are learning significantly from one another, and we've really noticed some significant benefits. So it's been a nice shift in this past school year.
Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Josie. Yeah, I just make a comment. Really appreciate getting this because as we've talked about instructional rounds off of the medical rounds practice, I don't know if I'm speaking for the board when I say it's hard. You know, we're trying to grasp exactly what you're going through, what the teachers are going through, and I think the overall purpose was to really engage both the teachers and the students more in the process, and just hearing that the teachers are receptive and wanting to get feedback from each other peer-to-peer is very encouraging, and I'd just like to say I appreciate really very much getting this presentation. Actually, I'd like to see one actually take place if I was invited to it. But
I know Chris kidded about Carrie presenting tonight, but what you would see at each of the schools now, it used to be us as administrators presenting the visit. The staff now presents the visit to one another. And so that's a nice progression. And the staff is really taking seriously the suggestions for next level of work.
Well, may I, Jody? Just so, do the elementary schools, are they also doing the internal round, just the same as the, okay.
It used to be district-wide, but we got into all the schools now. It's really centered at the individual school.
Perfect, yeah. Very interesting, thank you. Just a comment.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you. And I think it's a great idea. And I think it's wonderful too that the teachers can work together. They have time to help each other out. I think it's just going to make us, we're already a good school system, but I think it's all going to help us, be better. So thank you.
A lot of work.
So the next presentation relates to the goals this year, and we last did this at mid-year, and so as we get to the end, you have both the narrative in your packet as well as a copy of the PowerPoint the board does. So you established this year 6 different goals, and then there were 2 that we continued. So the first one related to a strategic planning process. The next dealt with the benefits of the new high school and how can we do a better job at public relations and informing our students and parents about the great choice of Waterford High School. We also expanded our mental health services, and we wanted to really initiate a very proactive approach to reducing emotional stress among our students. We also wanted to place a high priority on professional development and provide the resources and funding. Also to take a look at the possibilities for global experiences, in particular at the elementary, but really across the board. And then making sure that we're implementing in a sane way, in a very supportive way, the new standards as well as FACT testing and any other mandates from the state. And then a goal that we continue to work on is identifying the indicators. How do we know that we're a good school system? How do we know that we're successful? And that was something that John Tagley and Nettie pushed us as a board, and we've had that for a goal now for the past 3 years. So we keep that in the forefront of our minds. And then the last one is to continue to be mindful of the fiscal responsibility that we have so that we can really do a good job with our programming. So just an update as to where we are. This is what we did at the mid-year point. We made sure that we had placed it in the budget. We had a presentation from Learn, and we're now postponing that for a year now that you're engaged in a search for a new superintendent. In Goal 2, taking a look at the recruiting effort to make sure that our students understand that Waterford High School is a very good choice with the multitude of choices that we have. And I think this is a great success story with the efforts and work. So you heard at the mid-year point, and I think Greg Woods was here to really give you an update along with both Jim and Andre. So these were all the actions that we put into practice. And now, how did we do? Well, we have 14 students from the 8th grade attending vocational and technical schools and area magnet schools. 93% of our 8th graders moving on to Waterford High School. That's the best. That is the all-time best. So we learned a great deal coming out of the box early in the fall, and it's a real tip of the hat to the middle school and the high school, and really working very well together in educating and promoting what's available to our students and parents. And as a result of the experience, I've even modified this for next fall, and we'll continue to work on this particular goal. But this is really outstanding. Just 14 students out of the 8th grade class opting for a different school, and predominantly it's for our tech schools in the area. Goal 3 related to mental health, and we know that we increased our staffing. We really were looking at the outreach, and we talked about that at mid-year. And then in April, we had members of our mental health staff come and present to the board, both from a social worker and a school psychologist perspective, and you got to hear about the work over the course of the year as well as your opportunities to ask some questions. So some nice progress with the increase in staffing to support our students and families. Goal 4 related to the high quality of professional development and providing the necessary resources. What you're seeing appear on the screen until the bold, that was the work at our last presentation. Since that time at the elementary level, we've provided an elementary lab site where our staff visited the 3 elementary schools by grade levels, and we had a coach come in from the outside to model and demonstrate, and the staff had an opportunity to ask questions and to observe a person with a high level of expertise. We also, this week, have a summer writers workshop, and I think we have 17 members of our elementary staff, along with our principals, going through the training, and the ongoing coaching support by both our literacy and our math coaches. With Goal 5, you know that we're currently recruiting families, so this is a little plug. Anyone out there interested in hosting a family will be we'll have 20 students from China visiting us for 2 weeks, and that will allow our students to participate with our guests from China, and that will be hosted at Waterford High School. So that's been a nice addition to our efforts in really trying to expand the global awareness. In Goal 6, again, thinking about the new standards with all of our curriculum. As you review the curriculum, we identify for you the alignment and the necessary resources with training. Our professional development is there to support our teachers when we're asking them to implement a new curriculum as well as the new standards. I think the other thing, so how well are we doing? We had only 6 students in the entire district that did not participate in the SBAT testing. And so I think that goes a long way to the approach that we're taking to really phase in, support our staff, educate our parents, and then really taking a look at our ongoing work, looking at the indicators for success. So one of the things that our literacy coaches and our math coaches have been working with Craig on as we work our way through the implementation of new curriculum, we have benchmark assessments in place for next year, also the use of student surveys, and we'll roll that out to our K-5 staff with a schedule for next year. So we'll have another good data point to really measure student success outside of standardized testing. And lastly, to continue to strengthen our fiscal management of our resources within the district, we have just completed an agreement with Avery Point that I've had the opportunity to sign, so we'll have our students in the 18 to 21-year-old transitional program now located over at Avery Point. It's going to be a win-win for everybody, great for our kids, but we'll also save money. We started to explore some solar, expansion of solar. We looked at our transportation. We had a very successful electricity bid, reducing our projected electricity cost by almost $200,000. So that gives you an update on the work over the course of the year related to the goals. Are there any questions?
On goal 5, you talked about hosting the 2 summer camps for 20 students and you're recruiting families to be involved in that. What's the backup plan if you're not able to get 20 families?
We'll be going to China.
We were considering trying to get some housing in another school messenger, so and we have secured almost all the ground that we need to, and maybe parents could.
And that was just last week that we did that.
I think we're in a very good place to show that I was
Yeah.
And do these students come with their families or just the students?
So there'll be 2 sort of chaperones, but they're coming by themselves. And we've organized it so, as you heard, when we launched it in the last meeting, that we'll have some Rutgers students who come in and Quakers, which will be a nice transition, and other student leaders participate with the same students. So it should be a nice program.
And is this the first time that we've done this?
It is the first time that we hosted it. East Line Public Schools, London Public Schools have done it in the past, and so we're using the same organization called Spiral International.
It's a rather onerous burden on these families that are doing this. It's very exciting.
They are.
They have to bring the students to each different classroom location. They have to give them 2 meals a day. It's very flexible. They're really doing this out of their own students of their heart and service, international relations, and just benefit us all.
Yeah, it's great. And it just gave us another good example of the power of the school messenger. So we were putting our heads together and we said, let's send out a message, and we utilized that resource numerous times this year, more than just announcing that we were closing school today. So it was really helpful.
Any other questions or comments?
So on goal 3, which is very pleased to see all the progress that's been made in that initiative, and I think, if I may say, I think it's one of the most important issues facing us, not only locally but also on the state. And if someone may just, because we talked about being sensitive as we went forward with this on early intervention and identification of children that may be in need of assistance, and we talked about, and we're pleased to have the new school psychologist, social worker there, and to talk a little bit about the outreach program. How is that working? Because I did read in some of the earlier notes that we're doing outreach and involving parents more, so I'm very happy to see that component of that. Is that working out well?
Yeah, and I think that's been a service that we've been able to provide with some additional staffing. So there's been some nice connections, and I think also our connection with the Youth Service Bureau. And then the Youth Service Bureau also then connecting families after that short-term level of service for those families that require more service. So I think we're strengthening that this year.
And just if I may, and I'm not sure if I put into signature, but I'm going to do is the Senate Bill out 843 that would go to teacher training on certain these areas with trauma and with emotional well-being. So we'll stay tuned for that. Oh, I see that there. Yeah, you probably know about that. But that would be good. The state will have some training necessary there and some materials, so we should keep tuned for that going forward. But I'm just very pleased to see that all the progress that's been made in this district on that particular goal. The other one, could you just tell maybe the board knows, but I'm not sure on the goal 4. Could you just tell us a little more about the summer writers workshop? What you do there?
We've had a 3-year
I know
readers workshop, and it's an approach to really teach reading, and writers workshop is an approach to teach writing in a very constructive sort of way. We are offering these opportunities in the summer because we did with the readers. It's kind of like summer, and then a district focus, and we're going to be repeating that with writing. So the district focus for the 16-17 year will be kind of in writing. It's an opportunity for teachers to really have a week-long institute to understand the developmental sort of processes and many lessons and ways to confer and just encourage students to really write well, as opposed to writing just to say it's fun, which is sort of a closed area. So it's an opportunity to, again, just enhance the craft of writing at the elementary level. And when we do the district focus, teachers may only have an abbreviated institute during the school year. So it's an opportunity for teachers who want to serve that.
And you said there were 17 teachers that span all grades?
The elementary.
Oh, just for the, okay.
K2, but we have had some 3rd and 4th graders. And why only K2? We did some surveying, and that was sort of the focus, and we like to customize the professional learning to the grade plan. So you can imagine, teaching writing to a kindergarten or 1st grader is a little different than a 4th or 5th grader. And so we'll be continuing these opportunities in the future.
Great. And then, if I may, just one final comment. I just really want to compliment this Avery Point connection. This is also an issue that's being spoken about. What happens with this is like a real model to look at, and we're very interested in getting involved, and I think it's even cost effective. So it's an excellent program, and I'd like to hear as much about it as we possibly can. Thank you. It's just some comments, but I'm very pleased to see all the progress on the goals.
Anybody else have any comments? I just have a couple. I'm really pleased about the Avery Point process we made, mostly for the students, because it's going to give that group of students a chance to experience college life where maybe they wouldn't have, before. And also, I'm very pleased that we are measuring achievement outside of the standardized testing, because our children are much more than a test. And I think too much emphasis is in placed on those on one test, and I think, we have wonderful waters of students, and they're very smart, and they've succeeded in so many different ways, and one test doesn't help schooling students. So I'm happy we're looking into that.
So we're going to transition. We have completed 2 surveys with parents and staff, and Greg is going to share the results related to that.
So you all have read the cover letter and had an opportunity to look at the district-wide parent and staff survey. Just know that each school kind of has their own parent and staff survey that the principals have shared with their faculty. We summarized at the district level for you. We're very happy with the parent response. It's a great response. It is several-fold more than last year. This is in part due to a coordinated effort of really trying to reach out to parents because we care about what they have to say and what feedback they can give us to continue to enhance the great system that we have. Principals incorporated messages in the newsletter, and as earlier stated, we've used the school messenger on several occasions to really stress the importance of completing the survey. So what does it tell us? So there were 67 questions. 45 questions were rated in the 90-plus of favorable, which is tremendous. 18 questions were in that 80 to 89, which is also very good, especially for the 1,100 parents who really took the survey, and really only 3 questions fell below the 87%. And if we look at them, the first one didn't fall by much, so the majority of our teachers do really contact parents on student achievement. And if we look at the other 2, it's really parents self-disclosing on how often they're really able to commit to their school. And if we look at this on a monthly basis, it's below 80%. If we look at it on a yearly basis, it's in the high 90s. So again, I think all of the barometers here are showing very good things. To unpack this a little further, some notable slides or items to share. When it says the school promotes a challenging and rigorous curriculum, we've heard the instructional rounds, we've seen the curriculum renewals, that's what we're striving to do. Parents are recognizing that 7% jump and 90% believe that. In looking at parents to survey further, indicates a rigorous and availability of challenging courses. 80%, 87% said that. That's up 14% from last year. So if we think about some of the curricular changes that we've done, especially for the high school, that may be some cause to this. Also noted that the increase in the belief of access to extra academic help outside of the classroom and enrichment programs. And we've added some small enrichment opportunities at the elementary level, so that's also great feedback. This really shows that students and families are connected to our schools. And when they're connected to our schools, really great things can happen. We know that, that's why we're successful, and that's really showing what a great community we have. These questions really cluster around principals are seen as very accessible and open to feedback by parents, which is also very healthy. Parents are pleased with our faculty and staff, and there's a notable improvement in the elementary playground and lunch monitors. That's also very good news. Here are the only 3 areas that are kind of below that 80%. The teachers contacting. It's still 87%, so it's still high. We've dipped a little bit. It's something that I think principals can talk to their staff, but I think that's a very, very high indicator nonetheless. With parent communication, there's been a notable improvement by the parents. So what we're doing, and with respect to many of the teacher evaluation goals, we're connected to parent communication. And so this is showing that when we're working on an area, we really do make it happen. I spoke earlier about leads, which would be the other kind of 2 lower areas, but it really depends on how you disaggregate this, because really the barometer here was on monthly, but as I said, if you looked at the annually or even semesterly, those numbers jump right up. All of these indicators show that we are here for the right reasons and we model what we expect. And that, I think, is a credit to all of our staff. From a safety and consistency standpoint, parents are very pleased by the way we run our schools. Another view here that all of our staff treat others with respect. And so, again, another credit to our faculty and staff, as continued by these responses as well. So then, if I can shift to the faculty report, we've also seen very good news. So the faculty survey, the amount of faculty and staff that took these surveys are pretty on par with last year. You would expect that because there was vested interest in giving that feedback so that we can all improve. Of the 34 questions we asked the faculty and staff, 24 questions were at that 90-plus favorable response. 17 questions were in that 80% or better response, and again, only 3 questions of the 34 were less than the 80%. I first want to talk about the notable improvements. It's interesting to note that in our parents survey, parents rated order and discipline are consistently maintained much higher than the teachers and staff. So if you recall, the parents said the discipline code was upheld at 92%, and the conduct of student expectations are upheld at 91%. And so our faculty are saying maybe a little bit different. So that's something that I think principals can look at and try to unpack with the staff. How can we improve that? But notable increases nonetheless in all of these barometers. The areas where I think principals will be working, with their staff is unpacking how they can give helpful feedback to the staff who teachers work on a regular basis, and how they can allow the staff to be open to constructive feedback, and that the communications are honest and certain issues can be shared. All these are still, I think, in a very healthy status, and there's been some slight increases from last year, but I think as we always will look for continuous improvement, those are some of the areas we further improve upon. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain some questions.
When was the survey administered?
We administered right before the April vacation, and it was the thought that after the April vacation, we'll get very busy with outside events.
Okay. And you referenced 217 faculty and staff participating. How many faculty and staff do we have total?
It would have been part of the survey.
That would have been part of the survey. So that would have been all of our teachers, that's students and employees, our paraprofessionals, which would be 750, that's 300.
About 2/3.
So that's the
Any other questions or comments?
So to just make a comment, there's some really great increases in this. If I could call it a report card, sort of not really, but there's some really good increases here, and I just think we should watch the availability of challenging courses on the parent survey. That went up 13.7%. Wait till we get the statistics curriculum in there. We should see another jump next year. I know we just added that course coming forward, so we're really doing a good job, I think, on challenging our students and adding some really good coursework. The other piece I thought was interesting with the jump with the school principal administrators are open to constructive feedback regarding their child's education, another 12.9% jump in increase. So really, I think these surveys can really help us with the district and look at our weak points. The one part, and I know we're going to get to our school safety climate plan and what we've been doing there, which again we keep adding and improving on them. It was good to see the increase with students within our own district when they see something, when they see another student acting out, or that that is going in the right direction, that they try to intervene on themselves.
and that's a credit to the school safety climate plan and the culture that's being created in the schools. But just a comment, I was pleased to see that also moving forward. And, you know, it's a 14% increase on the faculty and staff survey part of that, noticing how the students are treating each other. So just a comment, but favorable.
Again, it's a very positive barometer here, and the areas that are slightly under our expectations, we'll strive to make better.
Thank you. Thank you, Jody.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Happy.
Thank you, Craig. Good news.
The rest of the consent agenda? We have a motion to accept the consent agenda consisting of the minutes from the May 28th, 2015 special meeting, the May 28th, 2015 regular meeting, the June 11th, 2015 special meeting, and the June 15th, 2015 special monthly expenditure. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Are there any corrections?
Well, Jody, just a comment where I was absent because, as you know, over my tenure on this board, I take it seriously and try never to miss a meeting. The meeting that I was absent was due to being at the Capitol and in session. Whether, you know, I'd called you to make a comment at the board meetings, that's the reason for my absence.
And we know you're very busy. I have one.
Other than that, I'm in favor.
I have a question. Did we do all the changes? No, I just have a
Did you ask
question.
for comment?
Yeah. To Bob. Bob, can you just explain that the letter that we have, that report here, you said a total of $844.51 worth of receivables from the 2013-14 school year need to be written off as follows. What do you know?
$650 that's related to forecast on the schools, and the other $195 is related to the students where the next $50,000 was paying back and forth. So it's actually not for the 14-15 school year, it goes back to 13-14. So we've made efforts to try and collect small amounts of three-or-four families that are probably moved out of the district.
Okay, I remember you mentioned this before, I think, right? Yeah.
Each year there's a small amount that happens, and we've been trying to collect from $195
Thank you. Okay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And motion carries. We are on to reading and review of correspondence.
I have one piece of correspondence placed at your table, and it's a communication from attorney John M. Walsh, Jr. that retired teacher Jerry Baker spoke about. This was a fax into the office yesterday addressed to Chairman Jody Nazarchuk, and you have a copy of that communication at your table.
Yeah, I have a few. Board received some lovely thank you notes from our retired teachers for the gifts that we gave them. This is Dear Jody and Board of Education members. I wish to thank you for the lovely crystal clock that was presented to me at the retirement reception. I plan to place it in my dining room cabinet along with my collection of crystals and set it to 2:30 permanently. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve the children of this community for the past 27 years. I have been blessed to have worked with some very talented and creative teachers over the years. Thank you again, Marguerite Stephen. Marguerite and I go way back to Southwest School, so it was nice to hear. It was nice to see her, and it was nice to hear from her. The next letter is from Paul McDonald. I would love to thank you for the beautiful clock given to me for my 35 years of service to the students of Waterford as the adaptive physical education teacher. I will treasure all the memories I've made, and there are many. Waterford has been an amazing place to work, and the colleagues I have worked with on all levels are exemplary. Please know that Waterford in all aspects will always be in my heart. Fondly, Paula McDonald. And then Pat Jordan wrote a lovely thank you note. Dear board members, thank you so much for the beautiful crystal clock for my retirement. I love it. I have always been proud to be a Waterford teacher and have been so happy with the many students I have had the privilege to have taught over the years. Thank you, Tricia Jordan. And the last thank you note, to the members of the Board of Education. Many thanks for the beautiful crystal clock to commemorate my time as a teacher in Waterford. It is a lovely piece and I will treasure it. I am proud to be a part of the system. My grandson is now a part of the Lancer Nation as well, so I know I will continue to support Waterford for a long time to come. With appreciation, Linda Sutherland. We had some phenomenal teachers retire this year and we're going to miss them. I also received a letter from Vic Ferry. Actually, it's a newspaper clipping, and he wanted to know, it's about the school financial literacy curriculum bill, and it passed the state Senate and House, and it heads to Governor Malloy. And he wanted to know how we plan on addressing that.
Sure.
I have it here.
May I?
I have a comment on it.
Okay, great. Well,
No, go.
great, we'll hear from you
So,
first.
Right here.
one of our curriculum renewals is really the treatment with culinary and child care. And speaking with the business teacher, we really want to expand the personal finance. And in our discussions with Andre, we want to say, should that be a course for all? Right now we have opportunities around that, but we may want to expand that. And so as we begin to study it for this year, I would anticipate next year you'll see some great work and very enhancement in that for the coming year.
So we'll do like the senior seminar that will not only handle, finances, maybe, how to write a resume and how to do an interview and, really get the...
Those components, Julie, I think will all be part of it. How, when, and how, we're still going to look into. And I want to respect the work that the teacher is going to put in on that. So I don't want to preemptively say how it's going to be done. But those are all on...
But we're planning on doing it.
That's correct.
Kathleen?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to comment because at the state level, this was a discussion, and just to be clear that we've wanted to do this for a long time, and I think everyone realizes the importance of financial literacy. But just to be clear, it's not a mandate. Again, the state board will provide materials and help and encourage local boards to include it, but at this point it's not a mandate on the school district. But I know it's something we have wanted to do all along, so
It has been a board goal.
It has.
And so with that, that sort of clear direction from you to us to really work on that. So
Right.
I expect great things.
I think we're all really excited about it and thrilled.
Because like Kathleen has said, we've tried for years to, try to do something. We've agreed
Right.
to it.
And
I just wanted to let know, for those of you that don't know, Vic Ferry is a retired principal. He was my children's principal at Southwest School before Pat got there. And he's still very active. He still loves our kids. And this just proves that he hasn't retired all the way either. Kathleen,
sorry, Pat. I just would like to, if I may take this personal privilege, just to say to the retirees how much I've always enjoyed attending the retirement parties. I think I've been to most of them every year, and always enjoyed seeing everybody and being there and just to let you know that it was a 3 or 4 o'clock dismissal on the June session that night. So, and then I had to go out of the district. So I would like to just personally be recognized for recognizing the retirees and wishing everybody well in the future.
Thank you. Okay. No more correspondence? Okay, now we're on to superintendent's report.
You also have in front of you at your table an enrollment update as of today, and I just want to point out a couple of interesting situations. So at this point in time, we have budgeted 55 teachers at the elementary level. That includes a contingency teacher. In an afternoon review of where we were with enrollment, we have a tentative plan, which may change based upon whether we add a few more students at a particular grade level, or we have some families that leave Waterford with withdrawing out of our school system. So that occurs during the course of the summertime. So if we were to open school tomorrow, this is what our plan would be. So we need to know that there's going to be some flexibility between now and the first day of school. And we may make some shifts and changes based upon enrollment needs. I just wanted to highlight a couple of grade levels that we'll continue to monitor over the course of the summer. If you take a look at Oswegatchie, and you look at the projection right now at both second and third grade, just something to keep an eye on. It's at 21 and 22. Second grade, certainly at the third grade level, we can handle that. We'll keep an eye on second grade. But also, if you bounce back to the kindergarten, right now we're projecting putting a third section of kindergarten at Oswegatchie, but potentially if a couple of students were to move from Oswegatchie, it might mean that we need to shift a teacher in that particular school. If you take a look at Quaker Hill, right now, again, at the first grade level, it's very possible if a couple of students move, we may be able to reduce the staffing position there. And as well at the second grade level, you're looking at classes of 16 and 17, and again, it just depends upon where the enrollment is. But if we were to open tomorrow, this is what the staffing plan would look like, and we'll take a look at this over the course of the summer. Others will take a look at this over the course of the summer, and knowing that we have a board meeting scheduled for the end of August, that's something that the administrative team would take a look at right up to the opening of school, and through Dr. Griffin, she would communicate with you if there were any staffing changes, and then highlight that at the August meeting. But as of right now, this is what the elementary grade levels look like for class sizes, and just wanted you to be aware of it. We have, at this point in time, as of this afternoon, put the contingency teacher into the elementary plan. Just wanted to comment on the end of the year closing. Jody was my sidekick at the 3 5th grade promotions in middle school and high school, and I have to tell you, all of the events were absolutely spectacular. The students, the families, the principals were awesome in the program. It just was a nice time and very, very festive. The end of the year is so busy. And there were some great activities, and I have to tell you, a real tip of the hat to the teaching staff. Teaching was going on throughout the last week. It was business as usual, and it was a great close to the school year. So just compliments to everyone. We have a little demonstration, a little activity for you. You have a toy in front of you, and I'm so glad you didn't hit the power button during the course of the presentation. But over at Quaker Hill, our students have been participating in a virtual museum project, and I'm just going to ask Chris Discordia just to comment on it for a minute.
So actually, if you go to Quaker Hill, you'll see a massive dinosaur that was built inside our school. Mr. Grice's class, with a lot of help from his dad, the kids call him Papa G. They actually did all the measurement, they had help with the cutting out of the dinosaur. Are you playing with that?
Take a picture of you for the kids.
So anyway, it was a way to get Mr. Grice's class. He wanted to do a project for them to incorporate some literacy. They did a research project about the dinosaurs. So our new technology coordinator, Rob McKinney, had a great idea to make it a virtual museum so any kids in our school could learn about dinosaurs based on the research that his class did. So in front of you have the iPads that we have in our school, and an app called Orasma, but it's a virtual reality. Does anybody have it up? Do you have the Orasma app up? They're all playing with it. Okay. So basically, these pictures are up, and all you have to do is click on the app. If you just click on that, yep, and hold it up to the picture. Dave, you hold up. You'll get a presentation that one of the students gave. You can use it with any smartphone, as long as you have the app. It's free. Hold right up to it, and it plays. And you can go from picture to picture and get different courses. So it was really an awesome collaboration by community members. Mr. Grice's father really donated a lot of time and materials, and the students did an excellent job with the presentation. So.
So this is just really a small example of what our technology coordinator at the elementary school is doing to enhance the curriculum. Mr. Raya has done big projects in the past by constructing things, which has covered a lot of measurement, but this has been sort of the next level, and it's a nice partnership.
I wanted to show you the use of the iPad and how we're trying to really integrate technology into everyday teaching and learning.
Wasn't Matt named teacher of the, that's, what's the, in the day, that's the teacher?
Rated the number one teacher?
Yeah.
Voted on by parents?
Yeah. In the community.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite an honor.
So that was
Quite a teacher.
So, while we continue on with the meeting, you can continue to take a look at the student work. Just wanted the board has on its calendar a July board meeting, and just thought it'd be important to make that decision tonight with the work that you have ahead of you during the month of July. Is that something that you wanted to hold off to the August meeting? And in building tonight's agenda, we worked hard to really get the business in tonight. So it's certainly your choice.
I think we had discussed, we were discussing that we probably won't have the July meeting because there's so many other meetings scheduled. Is everybody agree? Okay. So we're going to cancel the July meeting.
Okay. We'll do a posting on that so the community knows that there is no July Board of Education meeting. The other thing that I wanted to point out to you, we still have some student artwork on display from Oswegatchie School, and I just wanted to share with you that Oswegatchie has applied to be one of 8 schools to participate in a pilot of bringing the Connecticut Freedom Trail to life through the arts. And they'll also be the recipients of a arts learning grant from the state, and they've received this for the last 2 years. So we're reaching out for other resources to support the program. So thank you for that work and that effort.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for letting me know.
And that's all I have this evening.
Okay. Down to committee and other reports. Anybody have any committee reports?
Well, I just wanted to let the board know that with the legislative wrap-up that the special session will be, as you just pointed out, Monday and Tuesday. And I don't want to take up time because we have a lot on the agenda tonight, but at the next meeting go through perhaps some of the bills that will affect education, because there were a number of them this year, but I just would like to report to the board that I'm pleased to be on the Education Committee, and I think I had mentioned to you before that when you come forward with an idea that it gets rolled in and it comes out through the Education Committee, so many of the areas that we've talked about, particularly in student assessment, has taken a look, so we can be happy with that. The new Commissioner of Education very receptive, and I think she takes seriously what we've been talking about with assessments and looking to see perhaps as we move forward to look for the possibility of a federal waiver, particularly at the junior year, to look at junior year testing and perhaps to look for a college readiness test that can be rolled in and to try to eliminate some of the other testing. So just very pleased that at that level many of the education bills are going forward, and I think they'll be positive for education all around. So I don't want to take the time tonight. Cave did an excellent job. I don't know whether you received, if everyone received that, but Cave did an analysis and a summary of all of the bills that came out of the Education Committee. So if you didn't see that, take a look, because it was a good summary, and they actually even list those bills that pass through the House, maybe not through the Senate, but that are on the horizon. So I just want to thank the board, and I think it's a good liaison that we have here, because it helps on both sides, with the state and with the local boards of ed. I've tried very hard not to put more mandates on school boards, understanding what it means. So thank you for the opportunity to say that, Jody.
Thank you for no more mandates. Does anybody else have any report? Craig, do you want to give a financial report?
It looks like we're going to have a the surplus, it's going to go right down to the wire. Not substantial surplus.
Tiny.
And Bob is monitoring literally hour by hour whether we have a surplus and how much. We really won't know until the 30th. It's not going to be much.
Right now, we're at about $30,000. We're waiting for final bills to come in from some of our special ed expenses and transportation. The account will be in the black.
That's good.
Will be at least $1 above budget.
Thank you. We had a school building committee meeting, and we're pretty much wrapping the high school up. The event, Jay, do you want to just give a little synopsis about the goodwill spent?
Sure.
Please.
Right now, it's in the hands of the contractor and our third-party consultants. We had some emails today with the manufacturers of a couple of different styles of bridge beds, and they didn't get back to them what was discussed.
Thank you. And also, just so you know, we have available funds in the total of $828,740.70. And so we will be returning money, back to the town, provided we don't have any unforeseen expenses. The Youth Service Bureau, we had a meeting yesterday, and Camp Dash is going along really well. They have at least 30 to 40 children waiting list. They can't, which it's just so sad they can't get in, but they're really at capacity. They don't want to have, any more children because they want to make sure they can handle what they have. But I've heard a lot of positive feedback about Camp Dash. And I think it's wonderful how our high school students are helping out. Some are volunteering and some are paid counselors. And I hope, I was hoping that we could probably expand it, maybe to another school, but we can't because of the location of Great Neck. It's just such a great location. It's near Waterford Beach and everything. So, and the topics for the weeks are great. And parents think that it doesn't cost a lot of money, to have their children there. And they also have before and after daycare that they're offering this year. And what's great too is because they're letting us use Great Neck. They've checked with the parents. The parents, I guess, have checked with their teachers to see what the children might have to work on. So they're working on their reading for an hour in the morning or math or whatever. So they have high school children there to help them. So it's really a great program. And each year it seems to be getting better and better. And that's pretty much it. Danny and her staff have been really busy with Camp Dash. They're going to see this through, and then before you know it, they're going to be, they're going to be starting up their regular program. Their counseling needs are still great. They still have a lot of requests for counseling, and that's a really tight budget for them right now. But I think it's great how our school system is working along with the Youth Service Bureau to help help our students and families too. Yes.
May I inquire, since and I don't mean to keep bringing this up at meetings all the time, but we've talked about it before we close out the high school, the project, the cell phone, the use of the cell phone in some of the areas, Jerry. Remember we talked about that we have a few hot spots, and I think that can be corrected easily. Can we make progress on that?
It was mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, it was mentioned at one of our school building committee meetings.
Oh, okay, great. I'm sorry to ask.
No, that's
Thank
okay.
you.
You're welcome to ask questions. I mean, you need to know.
Well, I just would like to, we want to be careful that,
We've
especially
identified a roster of some things.
Okay. So we'll be able to, the cell phones will work throughout the school in all areas?
We'll explore that to see if it can happen.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Under new business now?
Yeah, so we have a lot of new business today. So the first item, you have a copy of a letter that I forwarded to the chair of our Board of Finance, Ron Fedora. And you have some background information, if you recall, during the budget workshops, during Bob's report on the various district-wide accounts. We have had a capital fund in an annual line item, I think dating back to 2001. And that was really around the purchase of copiers. And we have not purchased copiers for a number of years. We're on a lease program. So we have a balance of $176,571 in a capital account. And so we received a letter from the Director of Finance on the town side indicating that through various accounts, what was your plan? And so over the course of the last couple of years, I've had conversations with Dan Stewart, and if you recall at the RTM presentation of the budget as well as Board of Finance, that was one of the suggestions I had looking out, and we've had conversation ever since we've put the turf field down. There's a significant replacement cost down the road for both the turf field and replacing the track, and so this would be a great start to use the seed money. Otherwise, this funding would then just go back into a town fund.
Right.
And so the next Board of Finance meeting is scheduled for July 15th, and all departments needed to put in a request for the Board of Finance to consider. So you have before you a letter and then a motion, and Craig has agreed to represent the board at that meeting, and then Jody, if you're also available, I think it would be great for you to attend as well. So put this before you to take some action. The letter was sent since we were asked to get it in June time. So,
Can I just ask, so will this be on the agenda then for...
Board of Finance.
It will be on their agenda. Because, if I may just clarify that, I know that you have brought that forward before, because I was in attendance there when we pointed out that these turf fields don't last that long. I mean, okay, they have a lifespan, so I think it's prudent of us to be looking forward and having that established so that it's not a big hit at that time period. So I appreciate and thank you for pursuing that and putting that out there, because I think it's good for all of us to have that in mind, so thank you. So do we have to take
Just asking for a motion here.
Yeah.
Is there any more
What's the date
discussion?
of that?
July 15th.
That's the night of...
Do we have to specify the property that the fund is going to? In other words, there's a lot of things going on at the high school that's trying to apply to this issue. It will have to be, you say to be said of all our elementary schools, all property. The way the town finances set out from the capital non-recurring fund such that you have to specify the exact property, you can't have a more general purpose.
Well, one of the things that I did was meet with Mariana Stevens, and then I drafted something and I gave it to her to review, and she did some editing for me so that we could be in compliance with the various funds. So funds are established for specific reasons, and so you could determine that it could be used for something else. I think the benefit here is establishing, call it a seed money fund, and then appropriating on an annual basis in the capital fund, whether it be $40,000, $70,000, so that the taxpayer doesn't get hit down the road.
And if our priorities change, the route would be to go back to the Board of Finance and request a line item transfer effectively.
Kind of like what we're doing here. This was a copier fund. It's obsolete. So could these funds be transferred into a new line item?
Jay, the turf field is it'll last for 10 years, and then about 10?
10 to 12 years, depending on the use. Getting a lot of use. We've got lacrosse, soccer, football, and
Field hockey.
We started this conversation as it was being installed.
Right.
I remember sitting over in the Rec and Park Department with everyone around the table saying, we're excited about this, but just know it has a lifespan.
With relation to Greg's question, on municipal side, you have a general capital non-recurring account, and that's for general purposes to be used for anything. So if we don't designate it for a specific purpose, like athletic turf field, it's just going to get molded into the general capital non-recurring and can be appropriated for any purpose whatsoever.
We have identified that this is a fairly significant cost and amount, so it makes sense to establish this account and specify.
I do believe the RTM will have to be the final
It'd be the
Right.
finance.
I'm very much in favor.
We're being proactive rather than reactive. Okay, anything else? Okay, someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the
Someone like to
motion.
make a motion?
I did, I'll make the motion.
Okay, that the Waterford Board of Education approves establishing a new line item in the capital non-recurring fund for Waterford High School turf and field repair replacement, and authorizes the superintendent to petition the Board of Finance to approve same. So there's been a motion, is there a second? Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carried. Okay, discussion and possible action regarding the textbook adoption to support the science curriculum.
So, in your packet, we have textbooks and online resources. They've been on the back table as well. They go along with 6 through 12 science curriculum approved at the last board meeting. So, as you know, by Connecticut statute, we need 2 board meetings. The first kind of overview, and then a second one for action. And we're looking for action tonight to purchase the science materials.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, I was able to get online. I checked some of them out. Do we still offer anatomy and physiology? And we just don't need textbooks for that this round?
Right, so as Department Head Amanda Daddy indicated, we are ahead of the curve with revising our science curriculum. And so as we phase it in over 3 years, we may come back to the board for some high school courses where the textbooks are more aligned with the NGSS standards. So right now, we're only comfortable moving ahead with these because we know once we commit, we've committed for a 5-year lifespan at least.
And I appreciate the breakdown of the costs for the different books and different workbooks. Any other questions or comments? Okay, go ahead.
That the Waterford Board of Education approves the list of textbooks and supplemental materials to support the science curriculum.
Is there a second? Dave? Okay, is there any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion carries. Okay, discussion and possible action regarding the teacher evaluation plan, and that was proposed in our packet.
So this is sort of an annual occurrence. We continue to hone our teacher evaluation plan, and I've listed to you in the memo that we received on Friday the big changes. So really, we're expanding the time for me or unannounced observations from 10 minutes to 15, but we're reducing kind of the frequency of required informal or mini observations from 5 to 3, primarily because it was very, very daunting to really do it well with getting in and then actually conducting a post-conference with the teachers, because again, the emphasis is really around coaching, and those post-observation conferences are the most critical. We have bifurcated the long tenure. As you know, tenure can be obtained if a teacher comes from a different district within 2 years, but if you're new to the profession, or Connecticut, 4 years. And so we've changed the requirements for the first 2 years, more frequent observations, then a gradual release the second 2 years, and then you may receive tenure a little different level. And we've also clarified the difference in intensive supervision plans for tenure versus non-tenure lessons learned. So that's with respect to the teacher plan. And going in addition to the teacher plan, I received a phone call yesterday from a member of the Connecticut State Department of Ed, reviewed our plan, and suggested some very, very small semantic changes. I conferred with the WSET on these, and they're listed on the memo that we placed at your table tonight. If we include those, then our plan would definitely be approved by the State Department. So That's on the teacher plan. I don't know if you want to discuss the administrators until you take action on the teacher one.
Yeah, we want to do the teacher one first, right? Are there any questions or comments?
Can I just ask, do we, not that no names or anything is said, but do we have any idea of the percent of teachers that fall into particular category indicator and what progress is being made? In other words, going from the different categories, is there any...
So I would say that, one of the most important things that we do is hiring, and I think we've hired very well, and we have outstanding teachers that work for us. And because of that, it's shades of gray. The majority of our staff, or the vast majority of our staff, are created between that highly effective and effective band. And it is an anomaly if a teacher is rated in the developing and really you're not seeing a teacher in that below standard level. So
That's good news.
I
That's
am
good to hear.
compiling all of that data, because that information is required to the Department of Enrollment. So that's just anecdotally.
Thank you.
I was really pleased to see the student feedback included in this. I think that's important. And my next question is, will the principals and the administration have enough time to do all this plus everything else?
Yeah, and so that's a great question, Joey. And on the teacher evaluation committee were two administrators, and we really, I think, had some very productive conversations, teacher and administrator, about that. And that's why you do see us moving back from 5 to 3. We have a high level of confidence that that is a very attainable, doable, and hopefully very meaningful opportunity.
We also really crossed our fingers that the state would approve that, and I think part of that was expanding from the 10 to the 15.
Correct.
But this was not an easy change.
It just feels like so much
5
to work
was
on top of
very
everything else.
challenging, and almost became less productive and more compliant. And that's not what we want.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, would someone please like to make the motion to approve the Waterford Public Schools Professional Learning and Evaluation Plan for teachers?
Let's go ahead.
That the Waterford Board of Education approves the revised teacher evaluation plan for submission and review by the State Department of Education.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Dave. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
With respect to the administrator evaluation plan, we have done a really different approach. Learn has been really working as a pioneer for the state to really to look at the administrative evaluation plan and really define it in a way that is meaningful and maps into the systems that we do. So we are among a dozen communities in the Learn region that have adopted the Learn plan through the work of Dr. Howley and Dr. Cummings, both the executive director and associate director. And part of the 3-day administrative retreat in August, we'll be having Peter Cummings work with us for 2 days on not only what the administrative plan really entails, but then how we can bring it to life. And so with Dr. Griffin, we will be developing the action plans that we see in here and the goals. And again, we've made this move because we want it to be very meaningful. And the present plan, as attested by Jerry and I, kind of has some quirky parts. So should be a big improvement.
Any questions or about this? Who was involved with putting this together? Because I know the other one had a sheet on all the administrators and teachers that were involved.
Yeah, so we had an overview at an admin meeting, so because we only have 12 groups of administrators, we kind of did it as all 12, and Jerry has been part along with the Warren Committee to develop this plan, and so we basically, in this case, just adopted this, so we're kind of creating a new baseline. If we're improving this plan after this year, it would be a much more organic committee of just us, but we really are thinking that this model is an enhancement from the CAP model that the state adopted 2 years ago.
Thank you. Any more further discussion? Would anybody like to make a motion to adopt the Administrative Development and Performance Plan?
I'll make a motion that the Waterford Board of Education approves the revised Administrator Evaluation Plan for submission and review by the State Department of Education.
Is there a second? Lisa. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion carries. Okay, on to discussion and possible action regarding safe school climate plans, and those are enclosed in our packet.
So each school has had a safe school climate plan. The big change is really to include violence, dating on our barometer in the safe school climate plan. Plan has that component, and then school really has a safe school climate plan, and so they've made some annual implementation. And this is another requirement that we bring to the board on an annual basis for review.
Any further questions or comments? Okay. You can tell that the schools have really worked on this, so did a good job.
I did, but I can't remember what it was. I appreciate getting each one of them from each one of the schools. I think it was very helpful, and there was a lot of the same theme running through them, but it was very good to see that we're keeping up with all this. It did.
The decision not to simplify this to one kind of district plan, because for this type of issue, it's really, I think, more important to have it a very school-based, for you to kind of see the school-based flavor.
The only, no offense to Quaker Hill, where's the Quaker Hill? Just only one piece that the committee will review and amend school policies, would recommend amending school policies, I think. That was the only little catch I have, that they would not have that authority to change the school, but they could make the recommendation that the board look to change the policy.
Great enhancement, and we'll make that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? I'd like some of the things that Clark Lane was using, like being upstander, not a bystander, and I'm really pleased that all the schools are honing in on bullying, because that's an important topic to make sure that we don't, a child is not bullied. Okay. Any more?
Move approval of the safe school climate plans and authorize submission to the State Department of Education.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, sorry, it's okay.
I think we're discussing.
I went there.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, discussion and possible action regarding the authorized signature change form for ED 099, the Agreement for Child Nutrition Programs and Healthy Food Certification Addendum for 2015 to 16, and that was enclosed in our packet.
And this requires a change of signature as of July 1st. So this is just a formality so that you have Dr. Griffin on the signature.
Would somebody like to make a motion? There isn't any discussion?
I'll make the motion, Jody, that the Waterford Board of Ed revises the authorized signers of the EDO 99 agreement for child nutrition programs to include Dr. Kay Griffin to sign claims for reimbursement, and that the Waterford Board of Education agrees to comply with the standards for healthy food certification and authorizes Dr. Kay Griffin to sign the EDO 99 addendum to agreement for healthy food certification for the 2015-16 school year.
Thank you, Kathleen. Is there a second? Okay. Lisa? Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next item is, if you want to reappoint me to the school building committee for a 5-year
I move
term.
that Jody be reappointed to the building committee for a 5-year term, July 2015 through June 2020. For a job well done, you deserve it. It was fair fire.
Yeah, I know.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor,
You beat
please.
me to it.
Oh, is there any discussion?
Great job, Jody.
There's some really great people on the school building committee that we're very lucky to have them. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That motion carries.
Annually, we bring to you any changes related to the student handbooks, in particular around student discipline. So you see just a couple of minor changes at the high school level, and this would require a motion on the part of the board. And if you had any questions, I'm sure Mr. Hauser would be happy to address.
Jody, may I?
Yes, sure. I'm sorry, Kathleen.
Andre, can you just, I just wondered, when you have the misconduct in the cafeteria, have you ever had to exclude somebody for 90 days from use of the cafeteria? That sounds...
No, there are sort of worst case scenarios when kids are just wrong, right, or be rid. 90 days is not happening in my time.
Thank you. Just seemed a little severe.
Planning for all contingencies.
Right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, would someone like to make the motion to approve the Waterford High School Discipline Code as proposed for the 2015-16 school year? So moved. Jerry? Is there a second? Dave? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, now we're on to, Craig, do you want to take over?
So we have a second read on the concussion training for athletic coaches policy. We really reviewed this at the last meeting. You may recall that this was basically because of legislative requirements around training. And while we're approving this policy in June, we've been complying with this policy since
Last year. Right.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments about this? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
The Waterford Board of Education approves and adopts policy number 4115.2, concussion training for athletic coaches as presented.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, Sherry? Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries.
So the next are all first reads. The first is on smoke-free environment, and the changes are around e-cigarettes, vaporizers, as delivery systems. So you can kind of see the enhancement to our current policy on policy 1331.
Any questions or comments about this policy?
I guess I should say one more thing, that when it comes to this policy and when it gets to other policies that relate to medical marijuana, that I sent these to our police department, and they've been reviewed by one of our lieutenants, and have to come up to with the police as well.
Okay, this is the
First read.
No, this
These are first reads.
is the
Yeah.
first read.
And we've had the policy.
Okay. Right.
So, hearing no comments on that one, then if we look at policy 411E and 421E, it seems to be redundant. So we are recommending the deletion then of this policy.
Do you need a vote, a motion on it?
You know, the board could just read it and adopt all these next meetings. I think that would be the wisest. If we delete this policy now, we haven't approved a new one. So technically, you can delete a policy with one reading. So I would recommend holding on.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll hold on.
The next one is around alcohol, tobacco, and drug-free workplace, and it's basically talking around the whole notion of medical marijuana and that really being prohibited in the workplace. Also talked about imposing certain restrictions on the purchase and use of electronic nicotine or e-cigarettes as well. We clustered all of these together because there's a similar thread and to address the powerful use of medical marijuana consistent with state law.
Jody, the only comment I have, and I mean it's very minor, and it can stay, but it's on the back side of the first page on the bottom. Any request for assistance with a drug or alcohol problem will be treated as confidential, and only those persons needing to know will be made aware of such requests. Well, that's just a little, maybe we could identify. Just think about it to going forward of who would those people be needing to know, because that could open up a matter of interpretation. You might think it's somebody, there's got to be a classification, I think, of people that would be required to know who,
I can understand that when employee assistance programs are offered, it's really done in the human resource, probably in concert with a supervisor who maybe has noticed an issue, and that's really the need to know. The other person who would be in that group, obviously, would be the superintendent of schools, just as the overall.
Right. Well, let me think about, there could be a way that we could identify that a little bit. Thank you. Thanks, Shoni.
Anything else in that policy?
And because we have incorporated really what used to be in our regulations, we'd be looking to delete the regulations then because it's redundant.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The next one is with respect to the student discipline code, policy 5114, and with Public Act 14-229 now prohibits the Board of Education from shortening or waiving expulsion period for certain mandatory expulsions based upon the two categories of possession of a firearm or deadly weapon, as outlined in the definition. The Public Act also amends the current statutory provision regarding the authority of the Board of Ed to expunge student expulsion from a student cumulative file regarding those methods. In addition, the new legislation provided that the Board may expunge a notice of expulsion from student cumulative records if they demonstrated to the Board that particular conduct or behavior in the years follows the expungement. Provisions are reflected in the provisions of Public Act 14-334, addressing certain themes stating violence, as well as the ban of the possession of e-cigarettes consistent with Public Act 1476. So this is probably our largest policy. There's no regulation on association.
And 39, number 39, with the teen dating violence, you may have had this language from legal, but I just question the piece, 2 students who are currently in or who have recently been in a dating relationship. Well, to begin, what do you mean by recently? Because that could extend from, I would want to be protecting the children. So if it were, say, someone who met the freshman year, but then this activity occurred later on, would recently, I'm having a little problem with the word recently. I would prefer it to say in any previous relationship, instead of putting a time limit on this. It's such a serious matter. Right. Think about that. Yeah.
Report back to them.
Okay. Just to kind of question what we mean by recently, if that's with a particular time frame. Okay. This is first reading, so we can come back. Sorry.
Okay, anything else?
I have a couple editorial. I'll see you with those after. We talked about the expunging ourselves in the past, so I think this is a good. Yeah, I think this is a good piece to look at. Thank you.
Can we discuss at length
Yeah.
policy committee meeting?
Yeah. Thank you.
The next is with respect to students, alcohol, drug, and tobacco, policy 5131. So the regulations here were revised to clarify that it regulates students from multiple use of drugs. And some students have prescriptions that are covered in certain substances which are committed lawfully at the same time. So again, this really is insulating us from any medical marijuana concerns. And this was really welcomed by our police department as well.
Good. Any questions or comments about this policy? Anybody? Okay. On to the next one.
And then bullying, policy 5131 and 1911. Again, the General Assembly amended bullying prevention laws this year, and the significant changes again were really to include the teen violence in the state. So we picked it up in this policy.
And I think I hit the same language is in this policy as it was in the other one. So if we could just think about it a little bit and look at that. Thank you.
Recently?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Recently to previously, possibly, so.
Any other questions or comments?
So I just have a comment before we go to executive session. Is that where we're at?
Yes, that's
How many?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to also recognize the retirees and apologize for not making it. I did tell Mark that I would be showing up with my camera as I have in the past. But I did have an emergency with my mom and wasn't able to make it. But I wanted to congratulate those retirees.
Thank you. Okay, can we have a motion to go into a... We need a motion that the Washington Board of Education enters into executive...
Could I have a point of personal privilege for a moment? I believe this is the last Board of Education meeting before the retirement of our superintendent. He stepped out of the room. But I just think it would be courteous of this board to recognize and to thank our superintendent for all of the good work that has been accomplished in the district over the last couple of years. Where is he?
He'll be back. He'll be back for executive session.
And we just...
Thank you, Jerry.
I'm just, with the board, before we go into executive session, just recognize you for all the good work that has been accomplished in the district during your tenure. I know this board appreciated the improvement in our school district and the performance of our students overall going forward. We saw a great climate, the results of the survey today, and we just wish you well in your future endeavors, and thank you for the good work that you've accomplished here in the district during your time here.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. I've had the pleasure to work with a great team. We have some very talented people in this district, great administrators, great teachers, and great support staff. So there's no mystery why this is a good place.
Thank you.
Motion to go into executive session.
Okay, is there a second? Sure. Okay, all those in favor?
I know, I'm talking about Amy Vaughn. Can I have just a second?